at a time.
Gentleman yields. The gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Guest, is recognized for 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today. As Chairman Higgins indicated a few moments ago, roughly 2 weeks ago, Chief Ortiz was here on Capitol Hill briefing members of Congress, particularly members of this committee, about events that have transpired post-Title 42. And we had the opportunity to speak with him, and Chief Ortiz said that he believed that the reduction that we've seen post-Title 42, he described it as what he believed to be a temporary reduction, and that he expected the numbers to return at some point back to the baseline that we had seen over the last 2 years. And so my first question to both of you, do you agree with Chief Ortiz's assessment that the reduction that we've seen is more temporary in nature and that we will return to the baseline of the last 2 years, or do you believe that the reduction that we've seen is permanent in nature?
I would say that we're encouraged by what we've seen the last 3 weeks. As I mentioned, we are clear-eyed that the factors in our hemisphere that are driving this historic movement of people are still there, and that smugglers use disinformation to drive migration. So this is a fragile equilibrium that we have on the border, and it could be upset in the future for sure.
I would agree with that statement. Also with Chief Ortiz, is that there's still numbers there in Mexico. I believe they've taken kind of a wait and see approach to see how this pans out. How do we stick to our guns with this, with how we're enforcing the Title 8 rules, and see how that works out. So time will tell.
And then also, Chairman Higgins mentioned earlier some conversation about the CBP-1 app. I know both of you mentioned that in your written testimony about the use of the CB1 app. We see that news reports show that the CB1 app, that there's roughly 1,000 immigrants a day who are able to apply for some sort of status within the United States using the CBP-1 app. Recent report by Fox News talks about the administration is seeking to expand that very quickly to 40,000 a month. And so my question is when Congress receives information, the public receives information from DHS about Southwest land border encounters. Those numbers in March were 191,000 and some change. In April were 211,000 and some change. Are the individuals who are applying and entering the country through the CBP-1 app, are those individuals included in the figures that we are receiving, or are those individuals somewhere else not included in those numbers? Because that's very important for us to know exactly how many people are coming across the border, whether you're coming across illegally and claiming asylum, or whether you're coming in by using the CBP-1 app, presenting yourself at a port of entry. They're still being allowed into the country. And so we're trying to get at least I am, and I'm assuming others on this committee, we're trying to wrap our head around the true figure of individuals who are allowing to come into the country each and every month. And so are you aware of how those numbers are calculated when you're talking about the Southwest land border encounter numbers that we routinely rely upon from CBP?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So my understanding is that when CBP issues its monthly reports, those numbers include encounters at ports of entry, which would include CBP-1, and it also includes encounters between ports of entry, which obviously would not include CBP-1. And I would also note that the Immigration and Nationality Act expressly authorizes individuals to present at ports of entry and claim asylum, and they must be processed. And we're actually under, litigation right now that prevents the use of metering at the land border. So I know Chief Huffman has thoughts here, but the CBP-1 app is really just a scheduling tool to allow us to let people who may wish to claim asylum present at a port of entry in a way that is safe and orderly and doesn't tie up our ports of entry.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir. Those numbers in Women Counter, for example, I have the numbers running in my office every day, and they'll say like 4,500 apprehensions yesterday. That will include probably 3,000 to 4,000, 3,000 or so encounters by the Border Patrol, plus it includes the ones that applied for entry or presented themselves for entry using that being scheduled by the CBP1 app. And I want to emphasize something that's very important to us because concern is the CBP1 continues to get misconstrued. For us, it is nothing more than a scheduling tool. It allows us to have an orderly process at our ports of entry, because without that scheduling tool, all these people that are waiting and seeing would all be showing up at the same time and clogging up and shutting down our ports and impact trade, impact other people that have lawful ways into the country, the U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, those things. So we use the CBP1 as a scheduling tool to help us maintain that order at our ports, because we are not allowed to use our metering that we used to do due to a lawsuit a number of years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Mr. Thanador, the gentleman from Michigan, is recognized for 5 minutes for questioning.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, the gentleman, for being here. I feel a strong personal connection to the issues we are discussing here today. You see, in 1979, at the age of 24, I was one of those immigrants with only a name, $20 in my pocket, and my American dream. Entering this country with no friends, no family, and very fearful about how I would survive in this new homeland. During summers between the academic school years, I was often forced to sleep in a car or sometimes in a homeless shelter funded by a faith-based non-government organization, NGOs. Now, you know, NGOs have played a crucial role for decades in providing care and support for migrants, including at the U.S. border. In times of solitude, those NGOs could be the only aid an immigrant receives for weeks. Strengthening the capabilities of NGOs to receive individuals who are not citizens following their processing has been an essential aspect of Secretary America's preparation for lifting of Title 42. Mr. Nunes-Neto, my question is, can you please expand on those NGOs' role at the border and why they remain vital to ensuring the treatments for the immigrants?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. As an immigrant myself, I think it is a sign of this country's strength that an immigrant like you could become a member of Congress and that one like me could achieve the kind of role I have at DHS. You know, Chief Huffman and I were just in Brownsville last week observing firsthand how the city government in Brownsville and the local NGOs process migrants as they are released from CBP custody or from ICE custody and allow them to connect with family members and move onwards to their final destination. These are non-citizens who are issued notices to appear and released to have their court proceedings as the law provides. Those NGOs and our city and state governments on the border are really playing a critical role in allowing migrants to be able to move onward and not remain at the border. I know CBP obviously relies a great deal on those relationships locally, and I'm sure Chief Huffman has some thoughts there as well.
Yeah. Mr. Hoffman, after receiving my PhD in chemistry and a United States citizenship, I became a serial entrepreneur. In that time, I learned a lot about the importance of technological innovations in solving problems. Can you elaborate on the app's advantage both for applicants and CBP officers. How will CBP, and also how would CBP expand the availability of this system in coming months?
So, and thank you for the opportunity to respond. As far as technology goes, technology is key for all aspects on ours, not just the CBP1, but how we do border security across the whole. The border now is a much more dynamic border than we've ever had in our history. And the folks that want to enter this country illegally or are traffickers, they can change the picture of the border with easy, fast, quick communication. So we have to be able to communicate as well, and we have to have the technology to respond as well as you. And the problems grow very rapidly, more rapidly than we can build our capacity. So the only way we actually increase our capacity oftentimes is with the use of innovation and technology, and that's what we've done in a number of areas. CBP app is one, how we process is another way, how we transport information is another way. All those things combined help us to be a much more agile response to whatever threat we see facing us.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman, and Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. My colleague, the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green, is recognized for questioning for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed learning about the CBP One app today. It's a pretty nifty little app. I just wanted to point out that, so if someone is illegally coming into our country, I call it illegally because I feel like a lot of them are in our country illegally, they can go to this app. And all they have to do is download CBP One, and they can come into Mexico. They can click on here and decide, are they a traveler, a broker, carrier, aircraft operator, bus operator, sea pilot, commercial truck driver, international organization. It's really interesting, though, the commercial truck driver one doesn't work yet, which I think is a complete failure. When you click on commercial truck driver, it says coming soon. You would think that this app would want to keep track of, imports coming into our country, trucks, agriculture, goods, whatever's bringing into the country. That's a really important fact and figure to keep track of. But if I am an individual and I'm coming into America, I can go on there and I can choose how I want to come in. I'm a pedestrian, so I click pedestrian. Let me tell you how great it is for people that are coming into our country that are not American citizens. They can find a wait time that fits their schedule. All they have to do is go on here and I can pick Calexico East, and I only have a 5-minute wait at a port of entry. And then I can look at this neat little graph that somehow tracks what time of the day is busier or less busy. But again, this app does not track or check trucks, commercial trucks coming into our country. And then here's what's really interesting. I find this very interesting. I can get a scheduled appointment, and it says you must be in central or northern Mexico to accept and schedule an appointment. So if I'm coming from China or Africa or whatever country in the world, I got to get my plane ticket to Mexico and then schedule my appointment so I can come into a port of entry. Now, here's the really interesting part. I would like our laws followed, but they're not followed right here on the CBP One app because it says that passports are optional. I think that's a big problem for people coming into our country and being told to go directly to the port of entry instead of course, going outside of the port of entries because that messes up the numbers. That apprehension numbers were off the chart, and that was a real problem for the Biden administration. So I'd like to ask you, Mr. Nunes-Nieto, why can't you tell us how many people are coming in the United States when you have a handy-dandy little app that you are tracking? You know the numbers. This is the American government. We put a man on the moon. We're able to count. Why can't you tell us how many so-called migrants are coming into our country?
So we do update the public and Congress on the number of people who are processed through the CBP One application, and I believe my testimony notes that since May 12th, we've been averaging about 1,070 individuals a day using the CBP One application, which again, as Chief Huffman noted, is just a scheduling tool that allows individuals who may wish to claim asylum to access the ports of entry as the Immigration and Nationality Act provides.
Well, can I ask you a question? This is something else I'm trying to understand. Now that we have an app to organize the illegal invasion into America so that everyone gets accepted, they have a time to come in, they say that they are seeking asylum, and then the American taxpayer gives them a plane ticket or a bus ticket to any town in the United States. Gosh, the American taxpayers are nice. Right here, it says that you say the reason why people are coming to America today is because of violence, food insecurity, severe poverty, corruption, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Did you know that there are over 500,000 homeless people in the United States today? And as a matter of fact, the homeless population rose significantly since 29. That's for Americans. So we have homelessness here in America. Natural disasters. Talk about climate change. This is the 4th largest country in the world. We have an extremely diverse climate. We have a wide range of natural disasters. 97 natural disasters occurred in 2021. I don't think this is very safe for migrants here in America. We had 97. How many are they having in their country? These natural disasters include wildfires, heat waves, droughts, flash floods, winter storms, cold waves, tropical cyclones, and on and on and on. But yet they need to come to our country because of climate change? That doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not a safe country either, by the way. In America, there were 1,313,000 violent crimes in the U.S., and that was in 2020. I can't imagine what the numbers are since then, since crime has come up. I think that you need better reasons if you're going to try to let a bunch of people in the U.S. using a handy-dandy app where you don't track imports than climate change, because that is not an excuse people are buying. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields. Mr. Gonzalez, my colleague from Texas, is recognized for 5 minutes for questioning. He's not here. Well, yeah, Mr. Garcia is here, though. My colleague from California, Mr. Garcia, is here.
Close.
Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that we have an opportunity to speak with our witnesses today. Thank you for your service. That was an interesting conversation about the app, which I'll get to in a minute. But I want to just start off by talking about Title 42. And as a proud immigrant myself who believes in humane immigration, I think we all agree that a secure border is important and is vital. Our nation benefits when people have an opportunity to come here to build better lives, as you have, sir, and like I have as well, and other members of the Congress. I want to remind my colleagues in the majority that attempts to demonize immigrants and people who come here legally to seek asylum is un-American. Our country is a nation of immigrants, and we're constantly reinvigorated with immigrants, with their talents, and with their innovation. I know that some people here have been openly rooting for a post-Title 42 crisis as a way to score political points, but let's be very clear, that crisis did not happen, and this hearing is an attempt to manufacture one. Now, as has been stated, Border Patrol encounters are at the lowest point since 2020. That is a fact. Those are statistics that are widely accepted. They have been reviewed by our departments. They've been put out as information for us to assess, and I want to thank you all for your work with that. And it's also true that these numbers should be not celebrated, but welcomed as progress in our ability to control and secure the border. And I just really briefly want to just ask to get clarification from Mr. Blas Nunez-Neto. Would you agree, and do you support those numbers, that we are at the lowest border encounters since 2020?
I believe if we're talking about encounters between ports of entry, that yes, we are at the lowest level since, I believe, December of 2020.
Thank you, sir. Now, I think a key reason for the conditions and why they've been improved also is the pathways for asylum seekers that we have focused on. So you've worked on, the entire department has been supportive of the CBP One app, and that continues to improve, I think, outcomes for all, and for us here on the country, certainly for asylum seekers. I know we had a difficult rollout early on, but the department has also made really great progress, and I want to thank all the groups involved in getting the One app to where it is today. Now, I appreciate the gentlelady from Georgia's tutorial on the One app and how it works. I personally appreciate the use of technology and its way to actually facilitate information, collect data, and make things simpler for all involved, including those that are seeking asylum, who I should remind the committee and her have a legal right to actually claim in the United States of America. It's also important to note that the One app is actually allowing us to actually manage this crisis better here at home and at our ports of entry. And I want to thank you for that work. And I think claiming that the One App somehow is facilitating an invasion of the country is incredibly irresponsible. Asylum is a legal right in this country, and claiming asylum is so. And so until that changes, we need to continue to support this program and make it easier for folks and for us to manage anyone that's coming to the border or a port of entry, or now in many cases going to other parts of the hemisphere and seeking asylum there, which I think has been a very productive advancement that the Biden administration has done as well. I want to note that I support the administration's new efforts to create these regional processing centers in Central and South America, including Guatemala and Colombia, where we know migrants are receiving interviews with immigration officials, with specialists, and if eligible, are able to be processed rapidly for pathways to the U.S. if of course, they meet our standards. I also want to note that I hope that we can strengthen our shelter and services program, which supports groups like Catholic Charities that support legal asylum in our country. I think it's been unfortunate that members of this committee have tried to actually defund this critical program that essentially partners with nonprofit agencies to use federal funds to secure an orderly border. And so I hope that that's something that we can continue. And finally, I want to remind the committee that we have a responsibility to provide legal status and protections to the people who build lives and pay taxes here, and that's something that we can move forward on. Mr. Nieto, finally, what will the administration do to continue to expand legal pathways to protect the right of asylum while maintaining access to the border?
So as we have said, we are committed to continuing to expand lawful pathways and processes. I think you mentioned these safe mobility offices, which is what we're calling the regional processing centers. I view that, and we view that, as really a fundamental tool to help better organize migration, not just to the U.S., but as I said, to some of our partner countries, including Canada and Spain, which have signed on, and we are in active discussions with other countries to allow for referrals to their processes as well.
Thank you very much, sir. And I yield back.